pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Director Underhill, here. Director Ratterman.
Here.
Director Thomas.
I'm pleased to say I'm here.
Director Cicada.
And I'm here also.
And President Davidson.
I'm here. Okay, the second item on the agenda is public comment. At this time, the members of the public may address the board in any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff members to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there any public comment on an unagendized item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed for later discussion. 3A, report on monthly investment transactions.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second. Please call the roll.
Director Underhill.
Yes.
Director Ratterman.
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
Director Cicada.
Yes.
President Davidson.
Yes, if we're all in attendance, do we have to do the roll call on every vote?
No, I don't think so. No.
I don't think so anymore, yeah.
Okay. Now that we finally have Scott back.
You're welcome.
Is that Director Ratterman?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who would know? Okay, new business. Item 4A, discussion action regarding adoption of the district's 2001 through 26 strategic plan. Michael.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Really excited about this item. I think we sent the text out in the agenda packet, so the board has had an opportunity to review the draft of the specific plan. This is the culmination of several months of work that was, from the very outset, it was deliberately inclusive. We tried to get a broad range of perspectives to contribute to the process, and I think we were able to do that. And I think we ended up with a final product that is representative of the district's values and a new mission statement that is representative of the direction that the board wants the district to go in. So I'm really excited about this item. Almost too excited about it, as probably some of the staff in the room would tell you. The first thing I said to Rebecca this morning was Happy Strategic Plan Day, because I think this is a really significant milestone in the history of the district, at a turning point in our history. And it really sets the course for us. So I would expect to see a lot of references to the strategic plan in the future. We're gonna make sure this is a productive document going forward. I think the process in and of itself has been really productive, but it's going to get utilized, and so the board is going to see references to the strategic plan quite a bit as we move forward in the implementation of it. I want to introduce, although you've all met them before, but the consultants that helped facilitate this process and took us through it and taught us a lot along the way. John Woodling and Maria Pascal from GEI and Ellen Cross is also here, and they've just been fantastic and really helped us get to where we are today. Also, am really excited that Richard Hibbert is here today, the president of the union, and he agreed to sign on to the forward in the strategic plan with President Davidson and myself, which to me is a really significant statement of the inclusiveness of the process, and that this was not a management-driven process. It wasn't necessarily a board-driven process. It wasn't coming from any one particular group. It was everybody's input and something that I think that we can all own going forward. And so really appreciate you being here today, Richard. Yeah. So with that, does Ellen or John or Maria, do you guys want to add anything?
I do, John Woodling, GI Consultants. I do want to thank the board for and Michael for selecting us and the opportunity to work with you. Okay. It's been a pleasure, and you know, one thing this wasn't was a consultant-driven process either, and I think we helped Michael and the management staff, the staff that took the survey, the interviews that Ellen did with the board members. You know, we helped move that all along, but it really was the investment of the time by your own people to create this. And Maria will hand you this version in a little bit. And to reiterate, you know, to have the board president, the general manager, and the representative from the union all signing on to the strategic plan is pretty significant in doing these things. So I will once again thank you for the opportunity and let you move along to consideration of the document.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today.
And I would just add, I have to embarrass Richard for a minute if I could. Ellen and I were talking earlier about the significance of all the different support that we've got for the strategic plan. And she made the comment to me that her thought after interviewing Richard, because he was one of the extended interviews, not just the survey, but an extended interview. And her comment was, I think something along the lines of one of the better strategic plan interviews that you've done in your time developing these plans. Just because of his.
I've been doing strategic planning for over 30 years in the water industry, all over actually the West, but mostly California. And you all being on the board, you know, water is not an easy subject matter in this state. So the fact that we could have these conversations with all staff, with your union representative, the board and staff is a tremendous accomplishment. And in my history, even though I've always had unanimous approval of strategic plans because of that integrated process, everybody has a voice. I've never had union members show up in a way where A, they participated through the whole process, and B, they could publicly get behind a strategic plan. And I think that's tremendous kudos to the board, to your staff, and really to the way that you conducted this process. So congratulations, because our issues aren't getting easier in water, they're getting more complicated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So with that, the board has already adopted the mission statement, the vision, and the values. The last workshop that we did was to work through the objectives under each of the goals. And that's reflected in the document that we sent out to you on Friday in the packet. So what we're asking the board to do today is adopt the entire document, including those objectives. And so that's what's before the board, and happy to entertain questions or feedback.
Does the board have any questions or comments?
Well, can I make the motion?
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion to adopt the 21 to 26 strategic plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or comments from the board?
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. I think we all worked really well together, and I appreciate everybody's input. And I think the final product looks really good, so thank you.
Anything else?
And I'd like to make a comment about the involvement with union. And being noted, the fact that this isn't normally done, and for us to reach the point where we were able to include the union and they came willingly, and I think that's wonderful. A lot for our team.
I appreciate that. But I'm going to reiterate what I've said before about the strategic plan. I didn't expect much, and I'm so surprised going through the process. I was taken aback, I should say, as to how important I see now that it can be used. And we have heard from HR manager that it comes on a daily basis, and in the process and happy to be supportive of it today.
Director Thomas, you think?
Well, yeah, I am, like Michael said, really excited about this whole adoption of this document. And I've only been on the board for 4 years now, I guess, or coming up on 4 years. And I was one of those customers that, CCWD was, kind of the district that you love to hate. And I think that this makes so big a stride in changing that mindset. And if we just start living the words in this document, we can have the whole county and all of our customers behind us and recognizing that we really are trying to do our best work for them. And I just wanted to say hello, Richard.
Hey, Russ.
Richard used to be my favorite hardware store manager until not too long ago. I am so pleased to see your trajectory here, and your participation in this is just really quite heartwarming. So,
Thank you. I'm blessed to be here.
I love hearing that. How's your brother doing? Is he on board yet?
Yeah, he's here. He loves it too.
Oh man,
Yeah, we're happy campers.
good deal.
All right, with that, I'll just echo some thoughts. I mean, I am very supportive of the document, but we've got container loads of documents stored someplace. And so having our staff buy in and having the board so enthusiastic about it, I think it's really something that we need to check ourselves and make sure that we, keep it in the forefront and not just put it in a container somewhere and wonder whatever happened to it. So with that, I mean, Russ talks about when he came on, or when he was a customer, he was a district he loved to hate. Well, my friends, when I first got on the board, they said, "Why would you go to the hot water district?" And so I'm just glad to see that we have these are cooler times. And so with that, I will open for any other final comments from the board before I open for public comment.
I do just one. At some point, can you report to the board and give us an idea of how you're incorporating this document into your weekly or whatever, how you're going to incorporate it into your day-to-day?
Yeah, and
Interesting to know.
absolutely, and I think the point is well taken, that, the task for staff now is to make sure that it doesn't become, something that just lives on the shelf. And I like the way Director Thomas put it, something that we live going forward. And so that's our job now, and we'll make sure that the board sees it on a regular basis. So yes, we'll make sure that you have the.
Okay.
Can I just have an aside? I remember coming onto the board, it was a long time ago. My first term was in 2001, and it was, CCWD was, the hot water district. And when you used to talk to customers out in the field or on the street in the grocery store, you'd say CCWD. And at that point, I was running for office. And their eyes used to go round and round and round, because they just couldn't believe that anyone want to, join this, come and get on the board and try to fix whatever problems we had. And it was just really amazing. And it's amazing to this day to see the calm that the CCWD employees and staff have created out in our county, because CCWD is now considered one of the best performing agencies, and I'm really very proud of that. And I thought the board should be equally as proud. We've all worked hard, all of our employees, all of our staff, all of our consultants, to reach this point. And so now we have the strategic plan, and we'll look forward to the next 5 years. Thank you.
All right, is there any public comment today? Or any comment from any other staff member?
Do we have public online today?
Okay, Secretary, please call the roll.
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Takeda,
Yes.
President Davidson.
Yes.
So
Okay, thank you all very much.
if you don't mind, President Davidson, there's one more piece of this. And since the mission statement that's behind you is now out of date, it might be appropriate if you would actually go ahead and take it down for us.
Take down the thing that I wrote 12 years ago.
If you wouldn't mind.
I thought you wrote that in 46.
It's pretty heavy, be careful.
And
Oh.
so that's the new
How long has
one.
that been up there? How many years we had that?
That's really good.
So that's the new one. Thank you, Jessica, for making that happen. And
I'd like to make a suggestion. Could we do like a photo, recreate that? moment?
Something a little more dramatic.
No.
You know, when he asked me, it wasn't going to be.
I'd like the guy that wrote that back in 1946. Could we get a picture of Jeff taking that down? Huh? You did?
oh, good.
Okay, suitable for the front page of the paper? I mean,
How about if we get the whole board, if you guys want to
I
do it?
like
don't-
that even better. Let's get the whole board to do that.
Should we do that?
Yeah.
Watch now, I'm there. Help me with this. Come up with it. I feel like we're part of MSNBC or something. Okay, let's go.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, let's move forward. Forward.
There we go.
All right.
Perfect.
Great, let's get the board
Yeah,
together.
you guys just come in and stand and how about that?
Oh, should we take these off?
Yeah.
Take them off.
Take off.
Pull my ears forward.
And then I'd like to see the co-signers of the board. As well.
Sure, yeah, Richard, come on.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And it's going to take this village here to implement as well, so that they all understand that, right?
Can you get all of us? Or you want?
Congratulations.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo!
All right.
Very good.
Hurry up.
Exactly.
I forgot.
And then here's the slightly enhanced graphical version.
So
that we will, I love this right
Enhanced?
if we had changed something this morning, this would have been just all for naught.
Actually, I could change it.
Yeah, then it still has draft on it.
Yeah.
We'll do final versions, but we were prepared for that.
Okay, good.
Okay, does that conclude that item?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Side by side.
Okay, we're going to move on to 4B, discussion on public review draft of 2020 urban water management plan update. Brad?
Yeah, thanks, and good afternoon, directors. In the spirit of planning here, I'm happy to announce that the draft urban water management plan for 2020 has been released for public review on Monday. As you might recall, this is a 5-year update that the district is required to do, meeting the 3,000 acre foot, 3,000 population threshold to submit to the Department of Water Resources by July 1st of this year. So the public review draft is now going to be open for 30 days to receive comments and feedback. And then we'll look to have the board of directors consider the document for adoption at some meeting in June, depending on the feedback that we get on the document. The new analysis incorporated into this includes things like supply vulnerabilities, climate change risks, drought supply reliability, among other concepts that have been updated in legislative requirements. There's also a new element called the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. You'll see that as a separate document in here. And as you might recall, this sort of material was contained in the last 2015 update, but now following the last drought, it's been expanded upon and is now a standalone document that will need to be adopted alongside the Urban Water Management Plan. And it includes things like water conservation, shortage outreach stages, and trying to bring our plan consistent with other statewide metrics around California. A lot of this is a result of 2018 legislation coming out following the last drought. The third document that you hopefully all received in your package, and for those online be able to get to this document, is a Delta Plan addendum to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. As it turns out, in 2015, there was a requirement from the Delta Plan that came out from the Delta Stewardship Council that required all water agencies in California that prepared urban plans to incorporate a section on reduced Delta reliance. Now, obviously, for Calaveras County, we are not one of the primary suppliers that receive Delta water, so our section isn't quite as thorough or elaborate as maybe some of the state or federal contractors, but we are still working to address what we are doing as an agency relative to conditions downstream in the Delta.
I just have a question about that. Obviously, we're not pumping out of the Delta, but could that be interpreted as if we take a gallon away from the flow, that we are contributing to the depleted water availability in the Delta?
Yeah, correct. So it's a bit unclear what was coming out of the Delta Plan. A lot of it revolved around actions pulling water directly from the Delta. But to your point is a very good one, that actions we take up here in Calaveras County do impact the amount of water getting to the Delta for export and consumption there. So as you'll see in our draft addendum here, we address it from that standpoint exactly of what are we doing up here to try and minimize our impact downstream. Again, you'll see in there where we take an estimate at the contributions from the McCollum, Stanislaus, and Calaveras rivers, and then some of the actions we're taking to try and increase our water use efficiency and do other practices. So it's not explicitly required that we address a lot of details regarding downstream impacts. Again, a lot of it has to do with extracting water from the Delta, but we recognize that things we do upstream do have an impact downstream in the Delta.
I have a question. Are you anticipating any particular group coming to question us? You know, because we do have 30 days.
Right. So we have submitted this to the primary water suppliers in Calaveras County, as well as a number of stakeholders, other government agencies, the county. And then we've also made this publicly available via a press release. To answer your question, I don't anticipate any specific agencies commenting. Looking back at the 2015 plan, there was a handful of comments from the other water suppliers, but nothing that really demanded any significant changes. I'll knock on wood having said that for the 2020 plan here, but short answer, no. With most water suppliers, of course, any significant water suppliers having preparing these plans, there's just far too many of them to review for any one particular agency.
Because I can be thinking about groups out there who are, you know, looking at the decisions being made by CCWD and how they're impacted. And so.
Yeah, and I have had, I don't anticipate a lot of comments necessarily either, but I do know that people are paying attention to it. I've heard from other agencies asking, you know, looking forward to seeing it when it does come out, because I know especially the smaller agencies in the county that they courses that we do, but they're below the 3,000 acre foot or 3,000 connection threshold, so they don't have to prepare urban water management plans. So they look to the CCWD plan to kind of representative of what's happening in the county.
Yeah, exactly. And I will point out for the board that in particular, the new water shortage contingency plan, that standalone one, is really the meat at where we address specific shortage conditions, how we analyze and determine things like drought measurements or conservation efforts or things that way. So I would pay particular attention to that one and what we're saying, how we determine a shortage is in place and how we respond to a drought or other emergency condition. That might be the one that attracts the most attention. So right now we have all three of these documents open to public review through May 21st at 5 p.m. We'll be receiving comments over the next 30 days. And they've been made available via our website and with the public release notice on our website as well that went out Monday. May 12th, we expect to have a public hearing during the board of directors meeting that day to solicit comments and pull in any information from the public who want to learn more about the process. I'll also be working with Woodard and Curran to present a little bit of information to back up some of the requirements of the plan, how we address them, what we anticipate in terms of population projections, demand projections, stuff that way. And in the meantime, I'm expecting any email comments to come my way. I've provided both an address and email address in the agenda memo. So to anyone out there listening, feel free to comment or send any questions my way, and we'll work with folks here to respond. That being said, I'd also like to thank Woodard and Curran for helping with the plan update. They were instrumental in pulling a lot of the information and making sure we addressed what is a very long guidebook instruction to help us put together a compliant plan with the state regulation. So there's a reason it's almost, I believe, close to 200 pages for the urban plan, another 100 for the shortage plan. There's just a lot of requirements we need to fulfill in here. So with that, I'll open up to any questions or thoughts.
Looks like a lot of work.
Yes, it's been a lot of work to review. I'd also like to thank the management staff here. We did go through an admin review copy prior to going to public just to make sure we had our facts and figures and narrative correct on a lot of what we're proposing to do in the plan.
And I can remember when you were first assigned this, however many years ago, and your attitude coming into this, and it was something that was exciting to you.
Yeah, thanks. I actually presented this shortly after I joined last July's board meeting and went through the requirements. In my prior place of employment, I had been working on the urban plan as well, so I knew a lot of what the state was expecting to see out of these documents and things that were changing, like the Delta Amendment, for instance. And so knowing that I was going to be leading it here for the district and working with Woodard and the other management team, certainly excited to have this out there. I think, Michael, it was you who mentioned to me before that when somebody joined the district like myself or when you joined, this is really a document that provides a lot of great history, background, projections, forecasts, and info about the district that's useful for anyone. And I hope that we continue that trend with this update.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge Brad put a tremendous amount of work into this. Brad was the one that did the heavy lifting for us here. And for everybody in the management team that also reviewed and provided comments, but Brad really has put a huge amount of work into this over the last couple of months. So thank you, Brad.
Thank you. So if there are no other questions, I look forward to receiving your feedback and any changes or thoughts you have on it.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to discussion action regarding awarding contract for the district's auditing services. Rebecca?
Hello. So most of the detail is all in the staff report, but basically we put out an RFP in December, and the responses were due back February 26th. We presented our recommendation to the Finance Committee, and they agreed with our recommendation, which is to award the contract to Richardson and Company. Richardson and Company is currently the auditors for the district and have been for several years. If you recall, back in 2019, I guess it was, possibly the beginning of 2020, we amended the financial policy associated with the audit, and we aligned it with state code. And state code says that you want to try to change your audit oversight every so many years. So while we're making the recommendation to stay with Richardson and Company, they are rotating their senior staff. So we will have different auditing staff working with the district. But it will allow us to have some historical knowledge with the staff at Richardson and Company, which is going to help us because we do have still, if you recall, a lot of changes that we want to make so that we can tighten up some of the issues that have been identified in the management report. So included in your packet is a comparison of the 4 respondents, including Richardson and Company, which goes through the number of hours that they were allowing within their contract, any additional out-of-pocket expenses, as well as the 3-year amount for the contract. Richardson isn't the highest and they're not the lowest, but they did have the highest number of hours to provide to the district, which is important. So that would be starting for the fiscal year that we're currently in, the 2021 fiscal year, and it would be for the 3-year period.
Rebecca, you said in your report, your staff report, 20 firms reviewed and 11 downloaded. What do you think? Have you got any feedback from any of them as to why they weren't interested in responding? I mean, it seems like well, I don't know. That's.
It just depends. So what they'll do is they will kind of look at the initial RFP that's out there, and they will look at our existing financial statements, because you can go on our website and look at our financial reports. You can Google us. You can kind of identify kind of social media, review of the district. So some firms aren't interested in dealing with enterprise type agencies. They prefer to go with a more non-enterprise business associated accounting,
What
so
do you
just
mean by that?
governmental. So because we are water and wastewater, so our main source of revenue is rate revenue. That is considered an enterprise solution. Okay. So some audit firms they don't have a lot of experience in that. So they might deal really well with cities or counties, but not so much with water agencies. So there are some different accounting requirements and reporting requirements associated with rate revenue, especially enterprise agencies. So that could be it. They might also only deal with larger agencies and more smaller agency. It just really depends. They also will look at prior audits that are online and look at some of the findings that could have been on single audits. And so if they look and see that maybe we have some material weaknesses, then they might, not want to engage with certain firms. So it just really depends.
You said some of them were higher. Well, there was an array of dollar figures for the price. It looks like they were 97. Some of them were lower, some were higher. Approximately what was that range?
So in your staff report, there's a spreadsheet. So they were everywhere between 95,000 across the 3 up to 100, almost 110,000.
There's.
Are you not? Is it not seeing it?
The spreadsheet.
It's not here. No.
Okay.
And thank you. I was going to say I'd like to. That'd be a good thing to see. At least what you had to choose from.
Yeah.
And what process you went through, and not just what process they went through to be selected.
I will get that for you. Yeah, I thought it was included in there, but okay.
And I've commented on this before about how it is a good idea to change.
Yes.
I mean, and I think our policy is three years. Or you mentioned the policy. What is
so
what
it's
is the policy
basically
now?
what's in state law. So now it just points to state law. So state law, I believe, is 5. Is when you want to start looking at making a rotation, and you can go beyond the 5 with the firm, but they recommend a change in rotation for staff.
So these guys have been with us for quite a while, and I think it is more than 3 years. I think we've had a couple 3-year or 4-year or 5-year contracts with the same firm.
There were 3 with an extension of 2. So they just
5?
finished their 5.
Okay, and do you know who was before them?
I don't recall.
Yeah, okay. No, I remember discussing
them, but I can't think of their name.
But I do see a good idea to change every once in a while, and changing the guy at top. I especially if there was any well, I'm gonna say sizable recommendations or changes that they were recommending on a year-to-year basis. But I think that we've always been in good shape and good standing, and they do give us that management letter that gives those recommendations, and we have we purposely comment on it and see what changes we can and cannot make. I'm comfortable with staying with the same firm for. And the other side of the coin is that they're familiar with the district, and they're familiar with personnel, and familiar with the process, and I think they've recommended changes and we've done them, and now it's easier for everybody to work together.
And especially because there are still a lot of changes that we need to make and want to make. And so part of my concern on completely changing firms at this point also was, if you change an entire firm, you have to build a whole new relationship with them. They have to hold different, understanding our accounting structure, understanding our fund structure, our accounts, our staff. And so a lot of time would be spent engaging on that level of familiarization instead of focusing on the changes that we need to make. So I think staying with the existing firm, although changing the senior staff that will be working with us, helps us to continue to keep that momentum on making those changes.
Well, off the top of your head, do you remember what the other numbers approximately, what, do you have the chart? With
Yeah,
your
95 was the lowest one for the 3-year term, and 109,990 was the highest.
Okay.
And Richardson and Company is 104,725. So they're kind of in the middle.
But they included adequate.
But they
amount of
included
hours.
more hours.
Well,
So
what's the
they included
97?
420 hours. And then the rest of them were about 250, 260.
The last number in your report, what's that? What's the 97 then?
That is just for the audit services. So the 104 includes, like, if we were going to do a single audit, which we only have to do a single audit if we are doing federal funding. And if we were going to have them engage in other activities. So the 97 is specifically just for the financial audit.
And will we be doing the other stuff?
It just depends on our funding structure.
So
So
up to the-
if we end up getting a federal grant, that's what triggers the single audit requirement.
Oh, okay, and that's when it would be 104, otherwise it's going to be 97. And they all bid similarly, okay?
Yeah. The main difference between them and the other firms was the number of hours.
Okay,
So Richardson and Company was a lot more hours.
and how do we have control in signing this contract? Who walks in the door, and who's doing this, is making sure that it's a different person?
It's included in their contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah, and if you look at their response, they specifically point out who their senior partner will be that will be engaging with us. And that is going to be Ingrid as opposed to Brian.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board?
Nope.
Can I have a motion?
Move for acceptance?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Adamant, a second by Director Thomas. Is there any other discussion by the board? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. See how easy that was? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 4D, discussion action regarding purchase of maintenance and warehouse building, engineered metal building. Kevin.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So this is the mechanics building, steel building package. On April 5th, we advertised the project on public purchase, the newspapers, and reached out to multiple different metal building manufacturers. The building's gonna be 9,600 square feet. We received 2 proposals for the building. One, the low bidder was the steel builder at $135,488. And the other one is Plumber Built Incorporated at $240,000. $8,169. We found that the steel builder was the lowest responsive and responsible proposer. They fully conformed to our RFP documents. I've included a copy of their contract in the agenda package. So in order to place the order for the building, we have to put down a 30% deposit and send a purchase order in. The lead time on the building is about 18 to 21 weeks from the purchase order. And the district should receive the engineered drawings from the metal building manufacturer within 8 to 10. During the time when, after we receive the drawings, we'll apply for a building permit with the, and then during the building permit review period, they'll be reviewing the, it'll be under review, and then we'll put it out to bid as soon as the building permit is approved.
So the 135, Kevin, doesn't include the building pad, what's the difference between a building pad and a concrete slab foundation?
So the building pad will be the grading in order to build the pad.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
And with those, with the 135 plus those three things, building erection, slab foundation, and do you have a total what you anticipate? I guess those three things might be, we could add to the 135, and if, when we do that, is that everything?
No, there'll be some future electrical and interior improvements that we will be looking at. I guess
now that we have the 135, do you know what that total number will be approximately?
As part of this RFP, we requested a bid for the erection of the building, and that came out to 186,000, I believe. We include that in there, so that's about another 200,000. And then the permits and fees and stuff will probably be about 50 grand. And then the building slab, it's about 177 yards, so you're looking at another $200,000 or $300,000 for the building pad.
And is that the
And
pad?
slab.
Pad and slab, okay. And then the electrical and any interior?
I guess that depends on the level of work we want to do on the inside of the building.
Okay.
We put out the bid last year, and we got for very detailed interior improvements and that type of stuff. I think it was $2.5 million. So we're trying to scale the project quite a bit back from there.
What is the number in your head right now, you think? Not to be, that guy can be held to it, we haven't got the bid yet, but just guessing.
Well, I think we'll be a little bit around $1 million by the time we're done.
Okay, and this is first 135. Woodland.
Any other questions? Director
Yeah.
comments?
Yeah, and this proposal from the steel builder has this drop dead date of April 26th. And did I understand you to say that you did issue a purchase order for the?
No, we haven't issued a purchase order. I guess it's contingent on the price going up, and it hasn't gone up. So we have 7 days from when it goes up.
I bet it did go up over the weekend.
Okay.
I know mine did. They didn't even give us notification. They told us yesterday that the price went up over the weekend.
So where is
And
that?
it's the same company, so.
Yeah, I talked to him on, I think Thursday afternoon. He hadn't got anything yet, so he said our price was good at least through tomorrow afternoon. So we'll get.
Well, we need to confirm that because I got an email yesterday stating that the price went up for Fast Star buildings, which is same building as this. And maybe it didn't get to them, or maybe they'll hold it, but yeah,
Okay, and
it's a
then,
daily occurrence.
then my next question is this proposal from Vice Construction for the 182. That wasn't, unless I overlooked it, you didn't mention
That wasn't part of it. It was part of the RFP was to also provide a price for the erection. This is an option.
We're not even considering that today.
We're not considering that today. It should.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted it to.
That's $20 a square foot, by the way, which is really high.
I would do it for that.
Yeah, I'd quit the board right now and do it for that.
Hey, we got an opportunity here.
Finally,
We can get a building and get rid of a director.
your dreams come true.
So the plan was to put that portion of it out to bid, and we have one essentially already, but we'll see what other quotes we get on the construction.
Any other
Okay.
questions by the board? I've got a few
So you've
comments.
heard of these guys. Yeah, I want to hear your comments.
Russ, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
I have a question. Are we dealing with the county in any fashion?
Yes, we're going to apply for a building permit with the county.
And how do you think that flow will be? Can you anticipate?
I can.
Yeah.
It's gonna
be
never
slow.
mind. Maybe it should be fine. I'll tell you all about that.
We have there's no rush here necessarily. There's going to be a lag time on the building delivery and getting all the other work done. So there's not, and we're also not up against any deadlines. There's no drop dead date where we've got to move in or anything like that. So we're going to work through the process. It's nice to be in that position because then we can work through the process as cost effectively as possible without having our hand forced at any stage.
So just for the sake of discussion, if the building did arrive before grading had been either started or finished, there's plenty of room to put the building on the ground and wait till that work is done?
Yeah, there's plenty of room for that.
Okay, and I noticed that there was some comment about the insulation would be arriving with the building, and we'd have to have like weatherproof storage for that. How big a package is that? Is that a 40-foot container or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 20-foot container. That's about some of that stuff.
Okay, all right, that's all my comments.
Anything, Cindy?
No.
Just a couple of things. As you all know, I mean, this is what I do. I did what I could to help with the floor plan and all that stuff, and I've always kept that. I think earlier in the year, I think I told you that that my price for that building was like $98,000 or something like that. Well, we've had about a 30% increase since then. The day that I got this, and it's almost identical to the plan that I have, that I had bid, and Star Buildings is a different. I don't have anything to do with Seiko Buildings or anything like that, but the parent company is Cornerstone, and they also have a Star brand. So it's basically the same quality building with just a little different,
You say one that you bid is at some other location?
No. I designed it and put a price on it, and I estimated it so staff would know what it did. Make a long story short, on that Monday that I received this, I repriced that building, and my price of the building was $128,000 without tax and no profit. So I'm optimistic that this is all good, but I don't know exactly where the profit is for this person to sell this building. I did have two concerns that didn't seem to be clear on here, and I asked, I think I relayed that to you. One was the quality of the doors, the roll-up doors. Did we ever get an answer on that?
We haven't received an answer on the wind loading on the doors.
Right, because I believe it's somewhere in here they reference the Series 2000 door, which is it's an entry-level roll-up door. And I also believe California's, I think they're required to have wind-rated doors because these are 12 by 14s, and that's a Series 5000 doors that actually have hooks. A lot of these doors will just, if a high wind, if they're too big, they'll blow out.
Just pull the rollers out.
Well, there are no rollers, they go in the track.
slide,
But the Series 5000 have those hooks. And I definitely don't think, we're gonna use these doors every day. It isn't gonna be like we would never use a Series 2000 door. And so I want to make it clear that we're not buying.
Yeah, we'll upgrade to it. I'll talk to them, make sure we get the 5,000 doors.
Just ask them what series, because it's DVCI doors, I carry the exact same thing. And they're part of Cornerstone also. The other question I had was on the insulation. Did we get an answer in regards to that?
Yeah, it's the
WMP?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's a difference between the BBR and the WMP, and the WMP is a much tougher skin. It's the white vinyl on the inside. We sometimes work with that BBR stuff, and you can tear it just by stretching it, And so those are the main questions I had. As far as the insulation goes, I actually got a call from my insulation supplier last week telling me that he is now on an insulation quota. And he said, you better give me a heads up when you actually want your material, because right now we're on about a 50% quota for material.
Restricted quota?
Yeah, they're only giving them so much. The other thing, just to make it so the board understands, I mean, the building, our lead time on buildings is now 24 weeks. I mean, we were at 16 week. Usually we can get a building at what size in about a month. We actually get the building before we can get the permit generally. And I'm sure this is the same sort of deal. So I would expect a little longer lead time than what is being stated. The other thing is, I do believe a price increase. I don't know if it's Seiko increased, but Star Buildings increased over the weekend for the same type of building. As far as the permit goes, you said $50,000 for the permit. And I'm curious, are you expecting to pay road impact fees?
Yeah, there's $28,000 fee for the road impact fees from the.
Because we're driving another.
Yeah, they give you an option. That was a quote that I got from them. They give you can dispute it and you can write them a letter and explain to them, have an engineer analysis. So we're gonna go through that process, but right now it's at 28,000.
Okay. All right.
That's for going from the corner to the building?
Well, I mean, we're driving down the street now. We're gonna drive 2 miles. You know, I have a hard time with the whole road impact philosophy, but what else did I write down here?
I'm talking about insulation. It does say that the doors are not insulated.
Yeah, I guess the doors only have like an R3 rating. It's really not worth the money to insulate them, the roll-up doors.
All that they really are is a thin foil. It radiates more than it does anything. You know, it doesn't really, it's like a 1/4 inch foil thing that goes on them. I mean, we do them sometimes, but it's not that big of a deal.
It must rip off if it rolls up in a can, doesn't it?
I haven't had that happen, but I could see where it would. Also in the contract, are we going to be required to unload this building? I believe.
I believe so. I didn't catch that, but I don't remember him saying that he'd unload it. So we'll have to figure out how that's going to happen.
Well, it's not difficult. I mean, I unloaded Monday a 60 by 130, very similar size building up at Cinders, you know, and it literally stacks it came in 3 flatbed trucks, but I mean, it's stacked up just off to the side there. So it's not a problem storing it, and really not much needs to be weathered. Maybe the cardboard boxes, a few things you might want to cover, but as long as we're going to put it up, that isn't a big deal.
It's unloaded with forklifts.
Yeah, well, we use a telehandler, but yeah, it takes a big forklift to unload them.
5,000-6,000 pound capability.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, do we have a forklift?
We do. We got a really good deal on a forklift when we took over the Habitat for Humanity building.
Is it
It's not like
not the right time? Well, it's not a big deal. It took me 2 hours to unload that thing. Me and my son unloaded that building, almost the same size, in 2 hours.
I think we probably get a boom truck or something.
You don't need a boom truck, you need a telehandler or something like that.
Right.
But again, it's
I
not
was
gonna,
overly optimistic about our forklift capabilities, I guess.
well, it's probably a hard tire forklift, I bet.
A boom truck would be dangerous.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Okay,
$400. Well, you get one for.
and honestly, I mean, could we store the insulation if we got it? Because we should take the insulation with the way it is right now. We should take it if we can get it, because I just want the board to understand that the whole escalating price thing, it's not just escalating price. There's actually material shortages. They're actually declining some, not even letting them bid buildings. Some of the companies like General Steel and these other guys that don't actually manufacture buildings, their builders aren't even getting buildings. Because they are primarily made in a factory from Cornerstone or Nucor or one of these other manufacturers. But anyway, I mean, in looking at this, this is just a building purchase. If we can get it for this price, I do think we do not want Series 2000 doors. And I can't imagine it being, if it's another $1,000 a door, it's still worth it. So I mean, if we make this recommendation, I would recommend that we authorize, because the timing is critical. I mean, we have to sign a contract, make a deposit, and only then is this price going to stay good. There is no 30 days out thing going on right now.
And that price, if we were to do a change order for something like that, would be within our authority to do that already. So I think the appropriate thing to do here is, if we want to go through with it, would be to authorize execution of this contract as quickly as possible. And then if we have to, we'll make sure we get the right doors. And if there's a small change order that's associated with that, we would have that.
Well, I mean, I can't really just find it right now, but the only reason I'm concerned about it is somewhere in here, it mentions Series 2000 doors, but it doesn't call out when it's talking about the components. It just says, 12 by 14 roll-ups.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get the right one.
And the only other thing I had here was currently the roof color is Galvalume here. Just to make everybody clear, if we go to a polar white, which there's nothing wrong with Galvalume, it's just galvanized. But if we were there could be a slight price increase if we change the roof color. Because here it is stated, then they give us the option of the trim and the wall color. So I don't know how important that is to anybody. It isn't to me.
Yeah.
What's that?
Choose the building color. You're open the board and choose the building color.
Yeah, okay. Never
only-
give five people. Never give five people the option to do anything.
There are only a couple of, that's my life. There are only there are only a couple of options that are included in this price that we wouldn't have to pay more for. So
Here's the options.
And I think the one we were leaning towards, I think, is a similar color scheme as the resource connection across the street. So we thought that made sense.
What color would you recommend?
Like a tan and a green. It matches the.
Don't we have a blue roof right here?
Yeah, we could do a white and blue. That was the other.
I like red.
I like red too.
We'd
have to pay extra
blue
though.
business.
Well, our building, the exterior of our building is probably closest to the saddle tan,
Works for me.
but I don't care.
Okay.
Is
So
the roof, is the roof on?
that's right.
No, the roof on.
Okay,
this building.
we'll make a call on
Except
that.
for pink.
No, it's got.
Well, if pink was one of those options, it'd be high on the list.
Cinnamon red, sun's a little, no.
So you're losing control of this meeting.
It wouldn't be the first time. All right, so I mean,
I
what
do
we,
have a question though. The quotation says that the skylights are not insulated. There's other options you may want to consider is an insulated translucent. I'm sure that just means that it's double pane or something like that. What's your recommendation on that?
we never use insulated.
No?
No, they don't work as good. And the insulation that we're getting, we don't even really need to have R4. I mean 4-inch or R11. I mean, we generally use R10, which is 3-inch material, and it'll knock 12 degrees off of the summer and it'll retain. I mean, it works even with skylights, even with the insulated doors. I mean, it's not going to condition the space ever. So,
How about fire protection? We had to have will this building be sprinklered? That could add a ton.
I talked to the person.
Talking
it's
again.
It's 9,600. I don't think it is required.
Okay.
We have
There's one feet of the building.
As a charge.
Do we need a motion on this? Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I move for acceptance.
But wait a minute, we usually go with the highest bid.
Well,
No, for
speaking
the
of
first
that,
time this year, we're gonna go with the low bid. So I'm ready to move as quickly as possible.
we have a motion from.
And I'll second.
Second by Director Underhill. Speaking of that second bid, you know, good Lord, it
Now,
just
they
really,
want to make money.
They made it easy on us.
that guy, hey, that guy's probably sits on some board he wants to get off of too. And Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? Anything else from staff? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, good luck, but I would get this thing, I would get them called like
Go call them
today.
right now.
Oh, yes, Jeff, here I am, here I go.
I've literally sold buildings that people couldn't figure out the color, and then the next week it's $10,000 more.
If he goes in there and your phone rings, I'm gonna.
I actually tried to find out who this guy was. I couldn't figure out who he was. Okay, we will move along to 4E, discussion action regarding renewal of lease agreement for Courtright Emerson Memorial Ballpark at White Plains.
Move for acceptance.
I second.
The motion and a second. This is a
Questions?
terrific staff report.
Questions?
Do you have a question?
Yeah, who are we dealing with?
So the Courtright Emerson Memorial Ballpark representative that we typically deal with is Tom Owen.
I thought he was leaving or he was doing something.
What's his position?
He's on the board.
Is he president of the board?
Yeah,
So that's whoever the president of the board is who we.
yeah.
Okay, so Tom is still very much involved in it?
Yes.
Okay,
Anything else?
that's it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to old business. Regarding presentation of quarterly investments reports. Rebecca.
Okay, so long time ago, seems like forever ago, we had talked about taking some of our treasury dollars and moving them to be actively managed with Chandler Asset Management. And at that time, one of the benefits of doing that, not only will we earn higher yields and grow our assets beyond what we can do with LAIF, which is almost earning nothing right now, is that it also gave us the opportunity to get better reporting for our treasury that was under management. So included in this board packet is an example, because we haven't been with Chandler in terms of investments for a quarter, but this is in general what it would look like. So the question for the board is, we can certainly on a quarterly basis, once the quarter is closed and the report is ready, we can bring that before the board and actually do our presentation. We can just have the report be put on the consent item, like we do with the monthly investment transaction report. We could take this report, the quarterly one, and do our presentation to the finance committee. It's really up to you how you want to do it. The investment report, the quarterly one, really goes over a lot of economic indicators that don't just have to do with CCWD, but it has to do with the overall financial picture of the state, of the country, kind of what's coming down the pike, and kind of what things we're keeping an eye on, what they're keeping an eye on. And then ultimately, it will start going into factors that impact our investments in our portfolio, And then as we're in here longer, it will start going through what our portfolio has done in terms of compared to the benchmark, quarter over quarter changes, what our average quality is for what our investments are, the duration of our overall portfolio, and then what we're invested in, as well as it gives you a report out of our compliance as it pertains to our investment policy. So it's a pretty robust report. We can certainly do the presentation however you want it, but I didn't want to assume you want a 20-minute presentation every quarter when all you really want is a report. Or it might be that you want the finance committee to have the report. It's really up to you. I think it's a great report. It gives a lot of really good information for the discussion and direction from the board on what you would like to see going forward.
Any comments from the board?
Cindy?
I'm okay with either one just going to the consent agenda.
And thought that Rebecca and I discussed was maybe making it a regular item for the finance committee. We'll put it on consent for the when it comes out, and if anybody has questions or if there's anything unusual that we want to discuss, we can do that. So we'll have the discussion with the finance committee on a regular basis, and then just put it on consent for the full board, or not, because the board gets the finance committee agenda packets as well. So we could do it either way. We could just do it, direct it to the finance committee, or we can do a discussion with the finance committee and put it on consent for the full board agenda, however we want to do it.
I'd like B, go to the finance, the report goes to the finance committee, it goes in our consent agenda, and we don't rely on that agenda for the finance committee. And then third, if there is something to report,
Right.
if there's something abnormal, something, yeah, then take it out of the consent agenda,
Which is-
and
yeah.
We'll make it a discussion item.
with an explanation why it isn't in the consent agenda.
Right,
Yeah.
Which is what you do for us already, explaining, things that are out of the ordinary or what
Right.
have you, so that we don't have to.
I think that's a good plan, because that also gets it it makes it more accessible to the public too, who may not look at committee agenda packets, but they'll look at the board agenda packets.
And it gives the consent agenda some meat, everyone.
Right.
I personally have a little knee-jerk reaction to putting it on the consent calendar, because so often there's just an immediate motion to approve what's on the consent calendar because we have a loaded up agenda. I have a kind of an odd feeling about adopting this. I think because of the investments, that's our assets, and we have a responsibility to the public to really understand that we're discussing it and we understand it. So my feeling is that we shouldn't have it on the consent calendar unless somebody will agree to pull it off every time.
Could be you.
Could be me, yeah. But I'm willing to go with the flow with it. So.
Well, I think having a review of the committee and then having them flag it and bringing things a question forward to open agenda I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
So it would not, in your version, it would not automatically go to the consent calendar?
no, it wouldn't.
It would?
It wouldn't. I mean, when you say not automatically, unless there was something that was flagged by the committee that they thought the board would have a concern in.
So with this being a quarterly report, perhaps we should do one out of the consent agenda to go over the report once a year. It goes to the consent agenda, otherwise it goes to the finance committee first, they review. If there's any issue you come out, but if we were to actually listen to a report for 10, 15 minutes once a year, perhaps just before we start doing budgeting, is that could be something happening that could affect our budget, something along those lines, instead of 4 times a year, once a year, and we look at that's what we talked about.
Because at that point, you can explain how things have gone
Yeah.
historically.
Well, why don't we do it like we
Yeah.
just said, and then Bertha or whoever's in the committee can say, okay, I think it's time to bring it to the board, just to do a general update about,
Probably typically Q1 when we're developing budget.
So for next year.
something. Let me go to the meeting, and obviously, if there's something important going on, we're gonna.
We'll flag it. Yeah, absolutely.
Just in the nick of time.
So do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Kind of.
Rebecca, did you make sense of any of this?
Yeah, so I have it clear. We would do a presentation to the finance committee once a year.
No, I was thinking the presentation
To the full
to the
board.
full board.
To the full
once a
board.
year.
Right.
But go ahead and we'll discuss it as a regular agenda item in the finance committee.
Okay.
And bring it to the consent agenda for the full.
Okay.
And then quarter one, I think is what Michael suggested as to when it should be, when the one time a year, 1 quarter a year that it might come to the full board, if that makes sense.
Well, you guys figure out which
Yeah.
one that is, that, at one point, for transparency, we all have to listen and see if there's any recommendation.
Okay. And I think and I think in this period, it's probably a good idea to kind of have a more active conversation specifically with the finance committee, because we're just initially starting to engage with Chandler. So we just made our initial investments, and then we're going to continue to do that. But we are also looking at our overall cash flow and what we really need to keep in terms of more liquidity. And what we don't, we would want to try to push that more over to Chandler versus sitting in Leif. So at this point, we kind of talked about a ballpark of about 20 million under management with Chandler, but we may get to the point where, we're going to ramp up projects, or, we're done with this or whatever, where we want to kind of reduce or increase that accordingly. And so we can have kind of a more robust conversation with the finance committee and then with the full board.
You're the director, so you feel that whatever we do, make sure that
Yep.
you bring it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you,
Right.
Rebecca.
Clear as mud. I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move along to 6A, General Manager Report. Michael?
All right, couple of things real quick. I think this has been consistently a part of my report the last few meetings, but the voluntary agreement negotiations are hot and heavy. There was a 2-day, what we call that, a workshop? Wasn't a negotiation. With Secretary Crowfoot and Blumenfeld participating, leading the discussion. And all of the different tributaries represented. And so we spent 2 days on those calls because the state is really pushing hard to get it done now. The message from them at the time, this was last week, was they want it done by Mother's Day. And if it doesn't get done, if we're still far apart on voluntary agreements by then we're moving on to the next alternative. Which is the Bay Delta plan that we don't like, but there's also parts about the voluntary agreements that some of the tributaries don't like as well. So we're kind of in I was about to use an inappropriate phrase, but act or get off the pot now for the voluntary agreements. So we'll see how it goes. And we'll probably do a more detailed brief for the board on that item in the near future to give an update on exactly what the terms would be. We had a CPPA board meeting recently where the news is less bad than it was before. I don't know if I would call it good news. 6% rate increase is not good news, but it's a lot better than what we were anticipating a couple months ago. So the negotiation with FERC and PG&E is ongoing, and it could still end up being much worse news next year. But as for this year, at least there was a temporary delay on the implementation of some of what PG&E is asking for. But we're still also evaluating the long-term impacts of what PG&E is proposing, because one of the big issues here is not just the rate increase, but the way that they are billing us would change from billed for actual usage to billed for what the contract demand is for each of our service connections, which is essentially the contract demand for each connection is a reflection of the load that you have behind that meter. And even if you, so the way that they're trying to structure this, even if you don't use a lot of the electricity, you're going to get billed for the full contract demand amount, which could be pretty significant for us. So we're still evaluating what the impact would be long term. But I would think
on the other end of that, if you use more, do you still get billed the same amount, or then do you start getting
if
billed?
you use more than your contract demands, we're also in the process of reviewing, and in some cases, the contract for each connection is significantly different than the actual usage, but that never mattered in the past. PG&E just kind of ignored that contract demand number, I think. But now going forward, we have to true up those contract demand numbers and make sure they're accurate, because if we go over, they're going to ratchet it up to whatever the new peak was, and it's going to stay there for 11 months. And if we can stay below the original contract demand for 11 months, then it will ratchet back down. But otherwise, that becomes your new contract demand amount. So it's a much more onerous and rigid structure than what we have right now. So we'll continue to monitor that and maybe do a more detailed presentation to the board on the new CPPA structure once that becomes finalized. We're spending a lot of time on budget preparation and CIP development for the next fiscal year. So that'll be coming to the board in the next couple of months. But that process is well underway at this point. I also want to give a quick plug for a cleanup day at White Pines Lake, May 1st, this weekend, May 1st.
I won't be there.
You got to get your rake and get out there.
Get your cane, get out there.
White Pines Park Committee is the one that's putting that on, but it's they do such a phenomenal job up there on an all volunteer basis. We want to do everything we can to support them. So Jessica did a great job helping advertise that on our to the extent we have a little bit broader reach than they do. So I just wanted to plug that here as well. And then I also we don't have a date yet, but we're hopefully getting back to the point where we can start doing some town hall meetings in person, even if outdoors. And I think that's something that's really been missing over the last year. I think there's some issues that have been kind of swirling around in copper, so we're going to start there. And hopefully correct any rumors or misinformation that's circulating and give live up to the transparency standard that we've set for ourselves.
What about, we have people that have late payments and whatnot, maybe we could structure a town hall that kind of addresses some of those concerns. Maybe slopes, or maybe trying a town hall where maybe that area has the highest rate. Is that possible?
I think that would be an item in any public meeting that we have at this point. And right now we're still kind of in some flux as to how that's going to play out. It's a major topic of discussion in Sacramento right now. But I think that's definitely something that we're going to have to address and provide some clear information to customers on. That, and our meter installation project is about to ramp up. The implementation of the Tyler software is going to impact customers. That's ramping up. So there's just a lot of updates that we need to provide to customers in addition to just getting out in front of folks and making sure that they have an opportunity to ask us questions directly and provide the information directly to the community so that we can correct any misinformation.
Do we have clear instructions from the state on what we can and cannot do as far as enforcing past due bills and cutoffs and where that's going? I mean, is this a time to get out?
Well, something else I'd like to say on top of that, we'll want to follow what the state says to a point, but do we want to discuss extending terms for people? And that's kind of, I just made a note, perhaps we should discuss this at a next agenda item. You know, our policy can go better than what the state is requiring, and then we can start putting that out there. And remember I said, maybe having little meetings out there, like sit down with people, if we have that, perhaps something that I could help.
Absolutely, and Rebecca has brought that up recently too. You know, changing the way that we do it to try to accommodate more, and I think that it works if we can come up with a way to do it that works better for the customer, but also is beneficial to the district because it helps us streamline that process and make it easy for people to get back into compliance. So that I think is something we'll be bringing back to the board in the near future. But to answer your question, Director Adderman, yes, for now, we know what the current requirements are under SB 998, and we have adopted a policy that is consistent with that, although that was all put on hold by the executive order that's in place. Once that executive order is lifted, currently the way things are, we would go back to the 998 framework, but the legislation that's proposed right now would change all of that again. So we know what the requirements are now, but we don't know what they're going to be 2 months from now. Is that a fair assessment?
Michael, could we do something like this? It just came to me, and it could be totally not possible. But let's say we have customers, our total customers are in arrears $15,000, and there's 15 customers or whatever. Could we set aside a pot of money and call that, you know, for late payment loans, where we can make a loan with that customer, charge some kind of an interest? And let's say this customer needs $1,000, so we take the $1,000 out of the pot, pay their bill off, and then they continue to pay their rate. The district has their income in the late payment, and then the customer has a payment plan on that loan that's kind of separate from our rate to pay that back, and we can gain a little bit of interest. Do a lot more of a long-term loan to pay it off, you know what I'm saying?
We're getting pretty
Yeah,
specific.
we'll bring it back. We don't structure it as a loan, but we have a repayment plan that is, I think, what we would bring back to consider changing. And that was it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments to the general manager?
I have one. Usually about this time, through the JPIA, agencies receive money amounts that haven't been paid out, or, you know.
I haven't heard from JPIA on that yet, so I don't know. We'll hopefully be hearing from them soon.
How are we doing as far as accidents and everything?
Can't think of, we had a couple of minor vehicle incidents last year, but I can't think of any major incidents.
But am I correct that it is usually the first quarter that?
What's the date on that giant check in your office, Damon? I don't recall.
You mean we haven't cashed it yet? Carrying it in every bank?
Yeah, that should be coming around soon.
Well, and then secondly, he didn't want any birthdays anymore. Birthdays were included, and this is a birthday card.
Happy birthday, bud.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This is way more people than will be at my birthday party tomorrow. Thank you all very much.
Happy birthday.
Would you like for me to sing happy birthday for you?
Not necessarily. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay. I didn't get an invitation.
Oh, darn it.
It's in the mail.
Okay, are we at director's comments now? Bertha, is that your comment? Do you have any
Well,
further?
I thought I was commenting.
Oh, okay. Director Adaman?
Yeah, speaking of in-person meetings, I think I reported last month that Mountain Counties is having our first in-person meeting over in Plymouth on May 14th, or the board of directors meeting. And that's all I have to, we do have a camera meeting coming up in the middle of May 19th. And that probably will still be a virtual meeting. Oh, and the JPIA we'll be meeting that first week of the same week as the ACA conferences. They're still doing virtual meetings, so we'll be having our meeting on the 1st, and then a webinar on the Monday the 10th, and then a webinar on Tuesday the 11th, or the JPIA stuff.
And that reminds me of one other thing I wanted to report on is normally, and you brought this up last time, Director Ederman, normally we cancel the board meeting that overlaps with Aqua, and we are unable to do that this time around, unfortunately. But the good news is with your Aqua, the way the virtual Aqua conference works is that all of those panels that will happen that afternoon that we'll miss will be available for a few weeks afterwards. So you still get to see all of those presentations that we miss if you register for the Aqua conference. But we had some items that we had already planned for in advance on the May 12th meeting. So we'll be looking forward to seeing you here.
Cool. Director Thomas?
I'll have to call in for that May 12th meeting. It's okay. And I want to report that one of the responsibilities I have as a board representative is the Calaveras County Park and Recreation Commission. And anyway, I'm just, you've asked me a number of times about, is that committee doing anything or the commission doing anything? And it is. There's some really energetic folks on there. Yesterday there was an approval by the County Board of Supervisors to take our recommendation on some Prop 68 funding to go to some projects there in the county, and we're
Interpretive trails?
Oh, they're equestrian trails. So.
Hey, how about that?
No. They're improvements in parks and stuff like that. And one's locally here in San Andreas. We're going to spend about $70,000 there.
Wow.
$30,000 up at Feeney Park and $300,000 up in Railroad Flat.
Wow.
So anyway, it's nice to be on a committee that is got a lot of energetic and bright people making interesting comments and contributions. It's really pretty exciting. I mean, almost as exciting as
the
here.
engineering committee or what?
Huh? Participate in that. Anyway, my large focus over in the Salt Spring Valley is continuing to grow, and it's nice to be able to work on that. But I will be gone for that a few short days during that May timeframe. So that's it.
Director Skidda?
Yes, at the IRWM last week, we had 3 excellent presentations. Probably the most informative that I've listened to in quite some time. To share with the board was they had a presenter presenting budget-based rate structures, and I hadn't really heard it. It was really informative. So Brad and I spoke, and I'm going to send him a presentation for him and Michael to review. And if it's something they feel is necessary, I'd like the board to somehow watch it, or at least the finance committee. It was really interesting, and I know we talked about looking at the rates again. I don't like it, but it was just really informative. And then the other thing they talked about was the SPT project, which is that stormwater prevention toolkit. And just did some other updates, but that presentation really interested me and helped make sense sometimes of developing those structures. So, that's it.
Okay, my turn, I guess. Once again, thank you all for the birthday wishes.
Everyone came in to celebrate. your birthday.
Yeah, right. It means a great deal to me, but when I first got on the board, I identified as 32 years old. And I've been here 21 years, so now I identify as in my 50s. But anyway, Bertha, I just wanted to congratulate you for getting back so early. I truly want to tell you that I think you're an inspiration, particularly for somebody like Director Radaman, who, although being young and healthy, didn't seem to be able to make it into the boardroom. But after knee surgery, you womaned up and got here.
Oh, woman down. Oh, I love it. I had a long way to travel.
Yeah.
Women in water, so.
So with that, we're going to go into closed session with 2 items. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to potential litigation, government code, whatever. And Government Code 54957, Agency Negotiation General Manager Michael Minkler and HR Manager Stacy Lawler. Is there any public comment on closed session? Seeing none, we will adjourn to closed session.
We're going to do a quick photo with everybody.
What's that?